Are we live yet? Still saying we're trying to go live. All right, now it's saying we're live. Hey, it's Brent Leary. It is a rather beautiful but still chilly day here in Atlanta. Although I don't know, I hope you can't hear too much of this, but just as I was getting ready to start this, the yard dude comes and he's doing all the grass cutting and the leaf blowing, as you could probably hear all of that going on right now. But we'll get through this because this next few good minutes, it's very timely few good minutes because of all that has just taken place this past Cyber Week. Not just week, it's a Cyber Week here. And so we are literally just hours after Cyber Monday ended. And I am already able to talk about real numbers. This is crazy. This is really cool stuff. Real numbers that came from Adobe that they've been tracking this stuff for years. I was getting emails on Thanksgiving and then Black Friday and then over the weekend and then yesterday giving me updates of what's going on. So this is really cool that we are officially past Cyber Monday. Cyber Week, I guess, is done now. And so joining me to talk about this, it has been a few years since I had a chance to talk to Vivek, but Vivek Pandya, who is lead analyst for Adobe Digital Insights. Vivek, I know this is a very, you were just saying this is like not only your Thanksgiving, it's your Christmas. Everybody's calling on you because they want to talk about the numbers, but thanks for making time to do this with me right now.
Absolutely, Brent. Thanks for having me. Great to be talking with you again.
Man, and I tell you, it's been kind of fun getting these emails and checking out the numbers, and you got your site set up where people can actually go and check out the numbers. But literally just got like a press release with the last numbers, and I even I didn't do a lot of graphics, as you can see, because it's pretty basic stuff here. But I want to go to this slide here. Oh, not that slide. This slide. So, I mean, literally, Cyber Monday just ended, and you've already totaled things up. $12.4 billion spent yesterday, 9.6% year-over-year increase, and that is a really important number because a lot of people were wondering, well, are the numbers just going to be up because of inflation, or the numbers going to be up for actual people spending and buying? Inflation is not at 9.6%, thank goodness. So maybe you could talk to us about what put this in perspective for what Cyber Monday, what we just saw yesterday, all from this year to last year to whatever you want to talk about with this.
Yeah, so we saw the biggest online shopping day of all time yesterday. Wow. It was pretty staggering. When we think about the online retail space, that's the space that's actually had prices come down over the past couple of years. It's seen deflation, so a lot of the growth you're seeing there is people buying more goods and spending more, just because they're looking to do a lot more gift giving. And for us, last time we talked, Brent, it was in like 2020, and that was like a pandemic level holiday. Right. And so each season has its different quirks and its different attributes, and this season was very interesting because we knew that we would expect an acceleration of growth relative to where we saw the season last year, where the season grew just around between 3 to 4%. That was a time where consumers were coming in and the inflation was up 8%. So this time around, we're coming in and inflation's up just about 3%. So we have consumers still having to deal with a lot of, tricky macroeconomic headwind stuff, but they're also looking to spend and get a deal and be able to get a lot of value. The online retail space is one of the few areas where they're in the driver's seat and they can really kind of look at different prices, open up multiple browsers, and be able to see all the different retailers, both domestic and international, that's kind of vying for their dollar. So all that puts them in the driver's seat. It gives them a lot of power. And then that helps bring down the prices. And that's what's been helping drive the growth we're seeing.
One of the biggest flexes, this thing just stood out to me. So the biggest spending hour was last night between 10 and 11 Eastern. People were spending $15.7 million every minute during that hour.
That's exactly right, and it's very much we were just talking about discounts a second ago. There's this perception of discounts, and consumers are being given discounts in early October, late October, early November, and they're all kind of being branded as Black Friday deals. But the consumer definitely believes they're getting the best absolute price on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and these Thanksgiving, these marquee days. So we ended up seeing consumers, and we typically see this, is they're trying to do all their shopping get before these discounts weaken past Cyber Monday. And so that's when the velocity really kicks into high gear, and we see some of that later shopping in the evening.
And just pulling up another, I just love these little tidbits here. So Cyber Week. So that was just yesterday. So 12.4 billion just on Cyber Monday, but the whole week, which I think is what, like last Tuesday to this Monday, is that how that works?
We do Thanksgiving to Cyber Monday. That's what we view as our Cyber Week. Yeah.
$38 billion sold or bought, I guess, depending on how you look at it, in that span of time, up 7.8% year over year. So it seems like the crescendo was yesterday, but there was spending going along basically from Thanksgiving. Because I remember, seeing numbers from you guys. Like, wow, I remember like 5-10 years ago, people were just eating turkey and watching football on Thanksgiving. Now they're buying stuff, and they're usually buying stuff on their phones.
That's exactly right, because Thanksgiving's when really the party kicked off because of this whole sort of online shopping bonanza. Because over like 5-6 years ago, you had consumers being like, okay, well, I'm going to do some, have my dinner and then maybe go to the shops and do some additional shopping, or get an early start, or that midnight Black Friday thing at the department stores. But ultimately, with the pandemic, we saw a lot of stores close on Thanksgiving, and a lot of stores continue to remain closed on Thanksgiving, and they did. So you end up with consumers recognizing that the stores are closed, but they still have some of that buying impulse, and that really pushes them to kind of look to their smartphones. They've spent their time with the family and eating, and then they pull out their smartphones, sometimes under the table, just kind of looking to see what deals are kicking off. And that's when we started to see that $5.5 billion, and that really kind of set the tone for what we'd see out of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. The other deal days that we've been looking at all through this year are like the Memorial Days, the Labor Days, and 4th of July. That all those types of days would start to see spend kind of get softer in the run up to the sales days, and then really pop on the days themselves. So you saw the consumer being very strategic in trying to make the most out of these sales days and get more value, because given that they're still feeling inflation, the pinch of inflation and food prices, housing, and some of these areas, they understand they have a lot more agency in terms of how they can buy online. And so that's what they're really leveraging right now.
And just to finish up, so the whole month of November, basically $109.3 billion in year over year, 7.3%. So you're seeing that 7% increase number a lot, and it kind of crescendoed with what took place on Cyber Monday. But what is the overall month? What is that telling you?
So we definitely are looking at this month through the context of the season and we're expecting about $222 billion through the season. We did see a little bit of softer growth in the earlier days of November, a little bit later coming out of October. And so we're very cognizant that you're going to have some stable demand from consumers who are procrastinators or doing some of the later shopping. I'm one of those people sometimes. And so but you do potentially post Christmas and some of these off promotional days might see the discounts weaken. And when the discounts weaken, you might see consumers pull back a little bit. So I would say we've seen a lot of really good momentum, and a lot of it is in part because retailers came, ready to provide really competitive, strong discounts. They see an opportunity here to really win the consumer, meet the consumer where they are, because the consumer's being, provided a lot of these deals and offers. Now you can give them a really strong competitive deal, and that's going to cut into your margins a little bit. But once they're known to you and that you bring them into your marketplace ecosystem as a retailer, now you can try to unlock more lifetime value. You can get repeat purchases, you can get loyalty programs through them. All that can be possible if you can win that consumer at these moments.
When you were talking about, kind of breaking down the whole month and how spending soft in some aspects and then kind of stiffening up there towards the end, do you think I remember Amazon had their second Prime Day, like October 11th, 12th or there, but do you think that had an impact on the beginning of the month?
We definitely did see the October Prime Day event drive online retail up significantly because those 2 days were very strong. A lot of retailers get in on that action, but then we did see those discounts weaken, and then we saw spend weaken very quickly after that. So we just, again, the discounts are really dictating the terms, and the consumers are very much in this place where that's the paramount concern. In previous seasons, it was about early shopping or getting some of that shopping out of the way, delivery issues, supply chain issues, like, will there be shortages? Now it's a lot of those other issues have kind of, faded away. Supply chains have eased, delivery is back to normal. So now consumers are just very much focused on what is the deal for the product? Where can I get the best price? And ideally, then they can look at these other perks, like, can I do same day shipping or 2-day shipping, all that type of stuff.
Another thing that seemed to be especially yesterday, buy now, pay later. To me, this is a really interesting and staggering number. Well, you actually put it in the press release, staggering. It is a staggering number, because here's my thinking. There's all this talk about recession. There's a lot of uncertainty still out there. A lot of people, we see some of the, big layoff numbers, yet and still consumer demand hasn't dropped at all. And it feels like what's potentially helping to prop it up is this idea of buy now, pay later. And it seems like that really hit big yesterday.
It hit big yesterday. It's been hitting big, over the past couple of years. And this year it's really, taking on a new shape, and it is a sort of factor that's informing the growth that we look at in the top line. When the buy now, pay later sort of offer is provided to consumers when they're going through that payment gateway, some consumers are opting for it because they thought they would be spending $200 for that order. Now all of a sudden they're seeing $40 or $50, and they're saying break it up into interest-free installment payments. And they're saying, okay, yeah, that seems flexible and easy. I'll opt to do that. So you have some consumers leveraging it because it's just an easy part of way they can manage that financing. There's also consumers who are in a more financially strained place right now, and they have to then kind of lean on buy now, pay later, in order to just get the gift giving, get their budget together and support the gift giving this season. So those sorts of factors are driving the uptick we're seeing in buy now, pay later. And I think it's very indicative of just where many different consumers are at. Some consumers are in a place where, maybe they, own their home and they're seeing gas prices come down. So they have a bit more money so they can spend, and it's all good. And then you have other consumers who are feeling a lot of pricing pressure and inflation in multiple sectors. And then they want to try to do the gift giving this season. And so then they're having to lean on buy now, pay later to do that.
The other piece to this puzzle, I'm going to circle back around to the deals part, because my suspicion is, maybe it's because I might be a little guilty of this, I don't know. I was drawn in by the big discounts, particularly on the electronic stuff. I mean, I was seeing stuff from Apple. I'm not used to seeing Apple discounting anything, but I actually went out and bought the new AirPods Pro from Best Buy because it was like 30% off or something like that. And I got a good trade-in value on top of that. So the discounts are, maybe it's this combination of buy now, pay later, and being able to finance stuff that you would have always liked to have got because you got a discount on top of it. Do you think this is like a almost sort of like a perfect storm? You get these great discounts on stuff that you never see discounted on top of the buy now, pay later.
Yeah, it's I think it's a great point. You have these mix of factors that are out there, and you have all these consumers also vying for you know, all these gifts that they want, and then the retailers vying for the consumers and their attention and what they can promote in terms of discounts. So it drives the price down. When the consumer has a lot of choice, that helps push the prices down and get the prices really competitive. And when you see discounts at this level, it's very much indicative of, you know, when we think about what growth has been like for online retail through most of the year, here in 2023, it's been in this sort of mid to lower single digits. So we're a far cry from when growth was at 40-60% in 2020. And then 2021, we had additional stimulus dollars that was really helping keep that growth momentum going. 2022 is when we had a real impact from inflation. We had gas prices surging up to almost $5 in the summer, and that really slowed down the momentum. And we've been trying to pick up the momentum from that spot since. And so in 2023, the growth has kind of oscillated between 1 to 4, 1 to 5%. And now retailers are trying to use the Q4 holiday season and, you know, understanding there's stronger buyer propensity on the part of the consumer, and they're not wanting to miss that opportunity. So that's why the discounts are especially strong, and how they're looking to try to drum up growth in these last 2 months of the year.
And the other thing, I don't have a slide for this, but I was thinking, because I think you mentioned a little earlier how the buy online, pick up in store, it was a big thing like a couple years ago, but it seems to have definitely, I don't know, plateaued. I don't know if it's going down or not, but it feels like buy now, pay later is definitely going like this, and buy online and pick up in store, going like that, because, well, maybe because that was the pandemic effect for that. Now that we're past the pandemic, for the most part, people are feeling more comfortable about going in, going in the store anyway. So maybe the discounts with the buy now, pay later, that's been the thing that's going to drive more so than some of the, like you were saying, the shipping stuff, because it seems like the supply chain issues for the most part seem to be pretty much solved. And you can feel pretty comfortable that if you order something and it tells you you're going to get it in 2 days or a week, whatever, you're going to get it. Whereas before, that was a dicey situation.
That's exactly right. And I think it's good that you called out the curbside pickup or buy online pickup in store, because it has had a bit of a journey. Right now, it's in that sort of plateaued state in terms of how it's growing. It's kind of trending on the flatter side, especially compared to the momentum it had before. We do see a spike in curbside pickup and buy online pickup in store closer to Christmas Eve, when consumers are still like shopping online, but then it's very clear they're not going to get it on time. So that's when we see a real surge in curbside pickup orders. And you have categories like grocery that are helping keep BOPIS and curbside pickup just propped up, because that's another category that consumers are very comfortable just browsing and having that be a bit more automated online, and then just being able to pick that up and make that very quick, not have to wait in long lines for grocery items. So those types of trends are keeping curbside pickup still a part of the online conversation, but it's not as strong as it was previous couple of years, because as you mentioned, it's much more, you have much more confidence that these goods are going to get to you if within a couple of days, or how the delivery time is being put forward to the consumer.
The other part of this, I know it was you were, when we talked a couple of years ago, I talked to you before the actual Cyberweek happened. We were talking about some of the predictions and the forecasting. I remember one of those things you had forecasted had to do with small businesses and how much money they were actually going to make or sell online. Do you have any type of any numbers around the small businesses this year?
What we do see with smaller businesses in terms of Small Business Saturday is that they do see a bit of an uptick relative to the larger retailers, where they see a bit of a sort of like a double boost in growth on Small Business Saturday. But you also have the larger retailers having almost like an 80% increase. So
Wow.
it's just the nature of things right now, especially when things are price conscious, where sometimes it's easier for larger retailers to deliver on things like that,
Mm.
based on how they've merchandised and provided. And so that's what consumers are kind of gravitating to. And sometimes a smaller business can compete on that level. Sometimes they have a tougher time. And so I think right now we're seeing a lot of strength out of these larger retailers. They're even able to kind of box out some of their other larger competitors,
Wow.
because they're just so dominant. And the players that have really nailed down strong pricing, strong delivery, strong online experiences, they are able to kind of dominate the conversation. But I do think there's opportunities for smaller retailers and mid-sized companies to continue to focus on the consumer and the experiences they're providing. I do think all these sorts of ways to help consumers finance through buy now pay later, or still offer curbside pickup, be competitive where possible on price, that still counts for a lot, because you're in a search engine landscape, or potentially a Gen AI agent landscape, where
Mhm.
consumers are just going to be able to say, where's the best price, and that could come from anywhere. Where can I get this super quickly, where's someone selling this down the street? And that could be a larger retailer, but it could also be a smaller retailer.
It feels like um, bigger retailers have more ability for discounting and for doing things like buy now pay later, because they can they can withstand waiting 6 months for somebody to pay off their stuff versus a smaller business. But I like what you said, because I think the thing that smaller businesses have in their favor is the ability to really cater the experience to the customer more, convenience, more personalized, and in some instances, I remember seeing a number of surveys. I haven't seen any recently, and it tends to be when the economy is doing well. But unemployment is at like less than 4%. So people seem to that have a job or want a job seem to have it. So people seem to be more willing to pay a little bit more for the experience, for the convenience, over maybe a discount of a certain percentage. So maybe that's something that small businesses can really focus on if they don't have the ability to do those deep discounts and participate on that level. Maybe they can make up for it for just improving the customer experience in a way that's going to be very attractive to the least the target audience that they're going for.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the thing is I know in sort of summarized terms, we sometimes like to talk about the consumer in broader terms, but there's so many different cohorts of consumers and audiences. And all it takes is really tapping into one or two of them that you can really cater to, and you can unlock a lot of value and growth from that. As you mentioned, everyone kind of talks in this sort of broader term about the economic sense. And yes, 4% unemployment, yes, 3% inflation, and that has different effects on different types of consumers. If you're one of the 4% who's in the sort of unemployment audience, then it's a different type of economy for you, versus if you are employed, if you have own a home, all these types of things produce different expendable budgets that then provide different levels of flexibility in spending, on especially on what we call non-essential durable goods.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, one last thing here. You mentioned search engine marketing. That's another thing that kind of popped out here for me. Across major marketing channels, paid search remained the biggest driver of sales for retailers. But what caught me, and I brought it together here, is this revenue directly attributed to social media remain at less than 5% of total sales. it feels like if you don't know any better, you see all this focus on social media and influencers, and you would think, well, they have to be driving a lot of sales, but apparently it's still the kind of the more traditional aspects of marketing are still, and because there was email marketing and there was all sorts of that were way higher than the 5% the social media is driving. So it feels like those traditional marketing tactics still are the ones that lead to actual sales.
Well, I would say that I think you've really tapped into the prominence of paid search, and what I will say is it is truly paid search. I think the
Mm.
ads have completely taken over the search landscape. There's just no other way to describe what's happening there. And so you have to pay to play in the search space and drive that and get that impact of traffic and conversions there. I think on the social front, we do see consumers taking social influencers seriously. They do appreciate ideation from social media and like, oh, this is, this is a new deal on this product, or this retailer is offering this deal. But the key word there is directly attributed. Sometimes is
Mm.
it doesn't always kind of drive the traffic to the site and directly convert it as effectively at paid search. Sometimes they're able to convert a bit more on the social platform itself. Sometimes it's about the consumer now being aware of the deal or the retailer and then finding it through search. So because when they're on in that social browsing mode, it's a little bit of a different intent sort of drive than when you're in the search phase and you're like, okay, I know I need to buy something. I'm looking, I'm browsing, versus when you're kind of getting pitched something as you're consuming content on social media across everything. That then in that space, because we do see things like TikTok having an uptick in the traffic that it sends to sites, and it's also doing a lot of work on its source to drive more store sales on their platforms and things like that. But what we ultimately see in all this is that the consumer is these channels that help facilitate its drive, those ones are really overperforming, and then with social media and some of these other display can be more influencing and helpful for ideation.
Vivek, this has been such a cool conversation. And as I was saying, I mentioned that was my last question, but I gotta lie because you just made me think of something. Generally speaking, are we seeing a material impact of generative AI on the sales that are taking place online this year?
At the moment, and we're kind of it's still, I think, in a pretty nascent space in terms of direct kind of having the chat gpt and some of these voice assistants being able to kind of support the actual transactions, pretty limited still. But we do we did survey consumers just because we're Adobe and we're very curious about all this as well. And that we do have certain consumers that skew much younger who are starting to use it for kind of getting ideas on it's much more straightforward. What does my wife is these are characteristics about my wife, what do you think I should get her for Christmas? And you can get sort of ideas back from chat gpt. And we're also seeing consumers use it as a price tool, as a way to kind of fetch the best prices. And also, if they're interested in a certain product that's maybe a more premium luxury product and they're wanting alternatives, that they're able to ask it questions and it provides those types of alternatives. So we're seeing a certain small percentage of consumers starting to leverage it for part of their shopping journey, and the ones that are using it are saying they're finding it to be valuable. And I think what we are also seeing on a macro level is these larger retailers are investing heavily in they're making sure their customer service processes and support processes are infused with Gen AI, that they're making sure that they're supporting personalization through AI. And those larger retailers are really, drawing a lot of growth.
That's great. It's one of those things I was I think I talked to another expert in the retail space, and he said basically the same thing: is wait till next year. Is basically what he said. You think stuff is happening this year? Wait till next year. And I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. So I'm glad to see that we got a lot to look forward to next year with this. But
Absolutely.
Vivek, tell us a little bit about what you expect for the rest of this holiday shopping season.
I think that's the question that we're constantly asking ourselves, and it's top of mind for us. And so, given that we've seen this level of momentum of growth, I think the consumers have successfully, leveraged these sales days to get a lot of their shopping done and a lot of value. We expect continued stable levels of growth through up to Christmas. And then we tend to see a little bit of an uptick after Christmas because you've got people using gift cards, returning gifts, getting new gifts. And so that should keep things stable in terms of positive growth. And then as we look back and zoom out from November 1st to December 31st, we're expecting about 4.8% to 5% growth. And that should generate just over $222 billion. So, it should be a pretty good note for retailers from the online perspective in terms of impact that they've been able to drive to their own businesses.
Right. And is online shopping, has it officially overtaken in-store shopping for the holiday season for the most part?
So it's still we still see offline making up the majority
Okay.
because there's just so much spending that gets done in things like grocery and some of these essential categories in store still in a traditional way, and we still have a lot of consumers leveraging. But it's interesting, we're seeing more mobile utilization both in store and continued, just consumers continuing to pull out their phone, see what's available in store, see what the prices are, compare. And that's a way that the online space is really further infusing itself into the offline world. And we're seeing that sort of merging get even stronger.
And mobile now makes up a majority of the online sales, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's the threshold we were able to hit this holiday season. That's been incredible to see, and it made sense. We were all expecting it from an incremental level, but I do think it really underscores the importance for retailers to very much be focused on the mobile device optimization and landing pages and everything from a mobile first perspective. Don't think you can afford to have a low mobile conversion rate anymore. It's been the case, but it's kind of staggering. We still see much stronger laptop desktop conversion rates to mobile, and mobile is where all the action is happening right now in
Yeah.
terms of growth. So we need a lot more, I think, optimization across the board so that retailers can unlock more growth there and consumers can have better experiences.
Yeah, that was one of the things I definitely checked out and looking at the reports. Like, I wonder why the conversion rates are higher. People order more things on the
Mhm.
laptop versus on the mobile phone. Maybe it's going to take this the generational shift.
Yes.
The more of the younger folks there are, the faster that conversion happens, I think.
The generational shift and continued technological improvements in the mobile path, Apple Pay, one touch payments, all these types of things help alleviate the friction. And there's always this assumption, okay, I'm buying a larger ticket item, I need to kind of pull out my larger laptop sometimes. But I think more and more consumers are saying, no, I'm comfortable, I'm doing everything off the smartphone, I might not even own a laptop desktop anymore. And so that is, again, putting all the focus around mobile experience and making it really important that retailers continue to optimize there.
This has been a great conversation, and thanks so much. I mean, the numbers are pretty much right hot off the press, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to. I like you. You could probably tell I'm really interested in this stuff. It's really I love numbers, and I love kind of trying to figure out what these numbers mean. And thanks so much for joining me. And where can people go themselves and get a lot of the data that you guys are putting out there?
Sure. So we are we have the Adobe holiday site that you mentioned, and we'll be able to kind of share out links on that. And and consumers can just even search Adobe holiday spending, and they're likely going to get that site right out the gate. But that Adobe.com landing destination for all those insights provides up-to-date pricing data, the spending data. So that really provides what we've been updating, and we're going to continue to update through the season.
That's great. And I'll better let you go because I'm sure there are other people waiting for you to have this kind of conversation, because the data is so interesting, and a lot of people are trying to figure out what does it lead to. So I appreciate your time, man. And thanks again for doing this. And let's not let 3 years go by between the next time we do this.
Absolutely. And thanks so much, Brent. Anytime. Love nerding out with you about all this. So that's great.
All right. And thanks to everybody out there checking this out. I will see you Thursday for CRM Players. Until then, see you.